Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Polity Quick Revision Series. In this video, we'll talk about a very important topic again, DPSPs or Directive Principles of State Policy. So here we'll take a look at the features of DPSPs, their classification into socialistic, Gandhian, liberal intellectual principles, some interesting questions from this particular topic, and many more such things. So without any further delay, let's get started.
By the way, I think by now you should know everything that you know everything that you need to know about your DPSPs. Okay, and I'm guessing that most of you will get all of these questions correct. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Question by question. Which of the following were the reasons for making DPSPs non-justiciable? Insufficient financial resources for their implementation, vast diversity and backwardness in the country, multiple preoccupations of the newly independent Indian state. Go for it.
Option D.
Option D. Was that, who was this?
Manvi.
Manvi, okay, okay. What about the rest of you? Anybody else going for something else? So if you go to, so in my book, okay, the older edition, it is chapter number 8. So if you come to your DPSP chapter and you come to page number 3 in your DPSP chapter and look at the very last few lines. The framers of the constitution made the DPSPs non-justiciable and legally non-enforceable because first point is the country did not possess sufficient financial resources to implement them. In fact, fundamental rights are different. Okay, you want to reside in any part of the country, you can. Okay, now that is something that, okay, in case somebody is giving you some trouble for it, or the state is giving you some trouble vis-a-vis that particular, fundamental right, you can go to court. But look at the DPSPs. Look at the DPSPs. Even today, many of these are still a work in progress. So if that is the case, how many, sort of the backlogs in your Supreme Court or your courts would have just gotten clogged. Second, vast diversity and backwardness in the country will stand in the way of implementation, and the newly independent sort of country that was born from, the Indian state, right? So it might get crushed under the burden unless it decides to sort of free up its time, with something else. Okay, so there are other sort of preoccupations. All of these things directly from your Laxmikanth, and hence we are saying that Laxmikanth is extremely important. If you've read your Laxmikanth really well, you're going to really see an increase in your score. Okay, so I've explained it. The next question.
Option C. Option C.
Option C, okay, I'm guessing that is Aishwarya and Manvi. So basically to take a look at the not, okay, we do not want a religious state. There are some countries in the world where you cannot pray in the open. You cannot pray in the open, okay, to some other gods that are not part of the state's religion, right? And in fact, you will see some countries that start with, let's say, the Islamic Republic of something, things like that. They have certain rules, but that is their country. They have set that constitution. That is the kind of country that they want. But if there are immigrants who are going there who probably don't subscribe to that religion, okay, they can do what they want, provided it's within, the four walls, of their own home or something like that, right? So if you look at the Middle East, to a large extent, I grew up in the Middle East as well. So what the Middle East was a few years, when I was growing up versus what the Middle East was, because I was working in the Middle East, a few decades later as well, after my graduation, my degree and all of that. So by then, it had changed. Okay, the next generation of the the caliphate or the kings, they had a more progressive view, right? The country has more immigrants than it has, for instance, take your UAE, right? Look at Dubai, for instance. Dubai is where I used to work. In that particular country, immigrants are more than the natives. So if that is the case, and the immigrants are coming there and working there and sort of providing money, making Dubai grow, okay, making your Abu Dhabi grow. So maybe they should have, some amount of freedom to be who they want to be. So it is sort of changing. But India we have a country where, we do not say that in the name of God, or, the Hindu Republic of India, none of that at all, right? India is as much, my country as much as it is your country, as much as it is, let us say, a country for somebody else. Okay, so that should be very clear. Article 46, Article 44, free legal aid to SC, ST. Article 44, promotion of cottage industries.
Option D.
Okay, option D.
Option D.
Okay, option D. So Article 46 we just talked about. And what is the example, or what is the term that I just introduced for Article 46? The reason I mentioned this is that, these sort of things will help you remember. Okay, you'll probably remember that, hey, in class we just talked about or discussed this idea of affirmative action. This is your Article 46 in India, okay? So keep that in mind. What about Article 44? That is going to be your Uniform Civil Code. Okay, great. So the state shall promote with special care the educational and economic interest. Remember, okay, even this thing you should remember. What sort of interest? E and E interests, okay? Educational and economic interest. Education is part of your social interest and economic is the other one. If so, for the weaker sections, your SCs and STs, right, and protect them from social injustice. Okay, and Article 44 is your Uniform Civil Code. Do we have a Uniform Civil Code? I'm sure you know that we don't have a Uniform Civil Code. Should we have a Uniform Civil Code? For instance, it means that, let us say that I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, and the third person here is, I think it was Manvi or Aishwarya, right? One of you guys is a Christian, and the other girl, you're a Sikh. Okay, it does not necessarily matter what is your religion. Okay, it does not necessarily matter. If we have Uniform Civil Code, it will not matter. Then what happens is your rule for how to get married, your rule for what is the procedure to sort of get divorced, what is your procedure for adoption, what is your procedure for inheritance, all of these sort of aspects will be there, right? This will depend on what is set by the country. Okay, and it will not be by the religion. So sometimes the religion might have something very progressive, sometimes the religion might have something that is not very progressive. So if that is the case, it should not matter that, your religion says so. Okay, because if it is part of your personal religion laws, it does not matter. It will be a uniform sort of a rule for everybody. Okay, and that rule, could be something that is, or that code should be something that is sort of progressive and decided by a large chunk of people. Okay, and accepted by the people who sort of, so if that is the case, then we can say it is a Uniform Civil Code. So yes or no? Okay, maybe you guys will have to sort of, rack your brain a little more. Okay, so once you rack your brain, then think, okay, whether you're here on this end of the spectrum or you're here on this end of the spectrum, or let us say you're somewhere here also. If that is the case, why is it good? Yes. Why is it bad? So you should have no. So try to come out with these arguments. It will become easier for you to remember, and also to be sort of, that is the analytical way of sort of reading and applying. Okay, so directive principles of the state policy are not amendable. Okay, not enforceable by any court, fundamental in the governance of the country.
Option C.
Option C.
So why are you saying it is not, so you're saying not amendable is incorrect, is it? C is 2 and 3. So you're saying that it can be amended?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Have we deleted anything?
We
Or
have
have we added?
some articles.
Okay. So if you've added, then that means obviously, we can amend it. But it's just another part of your constitution. So by following certain rules, because we are going to take a look at how we amend. So by following certain ways or procedure, you can amend it just like any other part of your, this one. Provided, is there any rider that you will apply here? It can be amended, however.
Not violating the fundamental rights.
It can, no, actually some part of your DPSP can be okay so far as your Article 14 and Article 19 are sort of concerned, but it can be amended without, but that's a good case, okay? So without, but keep that in mind, without.
Basic structure of the Constitution.
Exactly, without, altering the basic structure and doctrine, basic structure doctrine. Which one
So,
of the
but
following?
they're not, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, as they're not justiciable, then how are they even making any difference whether it's going to change the structure of the constitution or not?
Okay, no, that is also a good question. See, if it is not justiciable, it does not mean it is useless, right? It is not justiciable means that I cannot take the government to court for that particular purpose, right? But these are principles that the state should keep in mind. But how many such things have we actually done, right? DPSPs are not there just in, let us say, for the sake of it. Okay, it is not there for the sake of it. When the planning commission was set up or established in the, from 1950 all the way, and we had successive 5-year plans, we tried to ensure that the DPSP related goals of providing social democracy or economic democracy, all of those things are going to be there. In fact, we even introduced many sort of legislation to ensure that, the DPSP goals are being met. I'll give you some examples. Yesterday, I think somebody mentioned that we talked about, once again, legislation, we'll take it step by step. Do you remember, I don't want to introduce anything new. So we talked about the fact that in, pre-independence era, there were only few people who had access to land and land ownership. Then what happened? We made some laws that zamindari system abolishment. Okay. So we have taken measures that are more in line, despite the fact that it is non-justiciable. We've taken, sort of, made this important sort of and we've executed, right? Zamindari system ko, and then we brought in tenancy reforms. We brought in just for land reforms itself, tenancy reforms. We had land ceiling, right? Many of these sort of aspects we have brought in. Right, so we mentioned that there should be like a decent amount of what is exact wording? A decent amount of not a salary, but income or something like that, right? So for that we brought in minimum wage act, right? So it is definitely not something that is useless or something like that, right? So it is an equal pay for equal work, right? Child labor prohibition, okay? Maternity benefit act. I think it's called Equal Remuneration Act. Equal Remuneration Act. So, for instance, if I want to introduce something that is not within, the principles that are mentioned in our preamble and your constitution, then we can say that, hey, this should not be the principle. This should not be a DPSP. Okay, this should not be a directive principles of our state policies. And hence, on that basis, we can strike that down and we do not have to sort of add it to our DPSP. Okay, when we say it is non-justiciable, it just means that, because, we cannot take the government to court because they are not following it. Okay, so that is what it means. Is that sort of clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. And let's move on to the next one. See, the first few questions will make you think. By the time you get to 7, 8, 9, I would want you to start feeling very, mujhe to ye aata hai, right? You should get that feeling that, okay, now I've got it. Okay, I have it down. Okay, so that's, if you're getting that sort of a feeling, that means, you've sort of, you can say that, okay, in your book, you can say DPSP, matlab done, right? Okay, which of the following statements regarding your current status of the relationship between fundamental rights and DPSP is correct? Okay, again, there are 2, 3, 4, there's a one page in your Laxmikanth that explained this in detail, but we talked about this. Okay, and I had explained this once. What would be the answer here?
Option B.
Option B.
B.
B for Bombay?
No, B.
D for Delhi?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so it is going to be this. Okay, it is about harmony between your, just remember the word harmony. Okay, and there was a proper showdown. In fact, the Granville Austin book talks about this showdown to a large extent. In fact, when do you guys know how the Supreme Court judges are appointed and the Chief Justice is sort of appointed? Chief Justice is the most senior sort of a person who's going to be appointed. Now, way back in the day, that time, Indira Gandhi sort of, I think she superseded 3 senior judges to place somebody else as the Chief Justice. okay, so that she may get, or because the court was because the court is not acting as a committed sort of a judiciary. The court is not meant to be a committed judiciary, right? Committed versus, again, I'm introducing something that we had discussed yesterday, committed versus independent judiciary. Okay, so you can read about this. Have you guys read this NCRT? I think class 11 or class 12, I think. India politics in India since independence, I think. Have you guys heard of it? Have you seen this book? It's a very easy sort of an NCRT. It'll probably, in case you're spending the entire day, it'll probably take you, you'll probably finish it in a day. Okay, you'll have a complete understanding of what happened. It starts with, I believe, the separation of the countries. Okay, and then the fact that we have partition, we have a lot of deaths happening on both sides, and all the way till 1990 they go. Okay, and then they talk about social movements. They talk about your Chipko movement. They talk about issues of regionalism in different parts of the country. They talk about there are certain kingdoms during independence they wanted to go, they wanted to stay independent, or they wanted to go with Pakistan. How did that happen? Kashmir. It's a very, very, very good book. Okay, so you guys can read it. But in case it is only about this, you can just read one page in this particular chapter. You will get the details. If the court finds that the law in question seeks to give effect to directive principles, it may consider that the law to be such a law to be reasonable in relation to Article 14 and Article 19. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, next.
Option C.
Can you tell me promotion of science and is not there in your DPSP? Where do we see something like this? But we have discussed something like this, right? Where did we discuss something like this?
Animal husbandry and scientific lines.
Animal husbandry on scientific lines. Okay, so it depends on how broadly or narrowly we want to interpret. Broadly means I'll agree, yes, of course. But if it's narrowly based on the text of your DPSPs. Okay, text of DPSP. In fact, you've seen the entire text of DPSP in those articles, right? If that is the case, but still we talked about science and scientific development or scientific all of that somewhere. If anybody remembers, we have discussed it in our session also. Try to see if you can recall.
Fundamental duty.
Perfect. Okay, fundamental duty. In fundamental duties, we talked about, what was it? To develop scientific temper, okay, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. So what does that mean? We should have a spirit of inquiry. So if somebody says something, even if it is, let us say, some Babaji or some Mullah or some God's own words, we should still question it, right? If somebody says that the earth is the sun rotates around the it sort of revolves around the earth, we've got to question it. Similarly, somebody says, so for instance, there have been a lot of these quacks that are working and they're providing I don't know, medicines that may not work, right? At least it is not the medicines that is sort of recommended by the WHO. It is not medicines that are, there is no peer reviewed sort of clinical trials or anything about some medicines, but it is still being passed on. They say that it provides you with some immunity, it provides you with this, that, but however people fall for it. So that goes against the spirit of inquiry. You've got to question, right? You've got to sort of question. Not only that, in case whether it is there are so many things, right? Okay, how many of you believe that if a cat crosses the path, you should probably not go in that direction? Nobody believes it? Or no comments from you guys? What if it is the day of your prelims and then a black cat crosses your path? I'm sure you will take you'll take a U-turn and go in the opposite direction. I'm just being facetious, of course. Okay. So which part of the Constitution refers to the responsibility of the state towards international peace and security? This is your article number 51. And this is your DPSP. By now, can I say, or can I assume that, you are like done and dusted with this? Okay. Any questions about your DPSP, you will be able to handle it. Okay. And in fact, many of these things can be utilized in your mains as well. See, if you play your cards right, today is, I think it's like what, 80 days to prelims? Okay, it is still, quite doable. My very first attempt when I cleared it, I think I had a timeline of 45 days and I was actually working. Okay, but especially when you're working, you have a lot better sense of time management, right? I remember that during my lunch hours, right, I would not go and go sit in the cafeteria and sit and eat with my colleagues. What I would do is that I would just ask somebody to just pick up a sandwich for me. I'll go to my car, I'll sit in my car and I'll read for around 25 minutes. Okay, and 2.5 minutes is like to come back to my office. So even then, a small little break would matter a lot. So that's what. So when you have sort of compressed time, you become a lot more efficient. When are you the most efficient? You'll be the most efficient. Will you be most efficient from 80th to 70th day, or will you be most efficient from the last 10 days? When are you the most efficient? Generally, for a lot of you, you will be more efficient here. Okay, because you are staring at the day of the exam. You're staring at your admit card, right? And you know that fear has already set in, so you'll be a lot more productive during this. But if you can utilize all of these 10 days or your 7 days, whichever it is, however you want to plan it, you can easily clear it. Okay, being in the top 4,000, I mean, it'll be 8,000, but let's say general category or whatever category, right? So let's just say you want to target being in the top 4,000. If you play your cards right and do your preparation, just like what we have done, you have done it well. If you can say that for 80% of the subjects, you will get through, guys. Okay, if you can say that what you have done it well, what you have studied, you have revised it well, you have re-revised it well. If that is the case, you are going to clear. Like for sure, you're going to clear. Okay, it is not a because in prelims, the reason why I say this is in prelims, the answer is right in front of you. All you've got to do is sort of identify it. Now, you cannot say that for your mains. Mains, may they give you like what, 20 words of a question. The rest of the 250 words, you have to sort of manufacture. You have to start, you have to end, you have to present well, you have to have a good introduction, you have a good conclusion, you have to have examples, you have to substantiate, you have present well, handwriting, so many different aspects come in. But prelims may answers are in front of you. If you utilize these days well, 100%, Aishwarya, Naveen, Manvi, Rahul, Supriya, all of you guys are going to clear it. Okay, I've been.
All right, guys, so that brings us to the close of our video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found the video to be useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the very next video.